to start by thanking these young men for doing this panel for us, because it's so important for us to hear from all voices of the triad. It's important to hear from the people that we sometimes hear the least from. And as adoptive parents, we can learn so much. And I'm really pleased that we have all young men. That never happens. So this makes it even better. This is a really special opportunity for all of us. So thank you very much for doing this panel with me. We already all appreciate you. So. Woo! Okay, so I am going to introduce these fine young men to you, and then we'll start out on some questions. Okay, so next to me is Trent Taylor. He's 20. He traveled a horrific journey through the foster care system until he was adopted at the age of 9. He has devoted his life to helping others overcome past trauma by providing hope after sexual abuse. Trent has mentored hundreds of youth through Watch Me Rise, which he co-founded. He's been featured in numerous articles and conferences and is the author of 2 books, including Battling the Invisible Enemy, which was written for teens who have experienced trauma. I need to get your book. He co-hosts a podcast to share stories for families who are struggling. Trent is pursuing his degree in clinical counseling, and as of today, he is a TBRI practitioner. Woo! Next, we have Chris Moore. He's 26. He's a youth pastor at Kindred Church and a sales rep for Power Home Solar in Richmond, Virginia. He was born and raised in California, where he was adopted in 2003. Chris has 6 siblings, also adopted from LA County foster system. He has shared his adoption story at conferences and enjoys encouraging families and churches involved in the foster care system. Chris recently married Savannah in April 2020, and later that year they brought home their first golden doodle, Finn. Chris and Savannah plan to foster and or adopt, and love on kids growing up without a family or a place to call home. So welcome, Chris. And he's Johnston's son, just so you know. And this, on the end, is Fred Tucker. He's 24. He was adopted from Uganda at the age of 15 after many years of surviving on his own without parenting. He is studying chemistry at East Carolina University and is a specialist in the U.S. Army Reserves. Fred's adoption reunited him with his sister and cousins, whom he had been separated from when they were adopted. Fred is an avid gardener, landscaper, and outdoorsman. He has worked at multiple garden centers and on a landscaping crew. He also loves animals and is the best friend to his faithful dog, Bruce. And a special thank you to him because he just took a 2.5-hour physics final, and he's still here. So.
Wow. Woo! All right, Fred.
All right, well, I've prepared some questions that a lot of them were given to me by other adoptive parents. And so I hope that they speak to things that you would also like to hear about. So some of the questions, all of them will answer. Some of them they may not. This is going to be a very fluid conversation. But we'll start out right here with Trent. Have you always felt like you belonged in your adoptive family?
That's a really good question. Have I always felt like I belonged? To be honest, I really didn't. I spent the first 5 years of my life traveling from home to home, 5 different homes, 5 different schools, never staying long enough to feel like I belonged anywhere. And then when I finally got to my adoptive placement, that's where I started to feel like I really belonged. It took time, it wasn't immediate, but that was just the constant love and support that they showed me for the first time in my life, and the fact that they told me, you belong here. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter what you've been through, we are never going to love you any less, we're never going to think of you less, and we will never judge you, and we love you. And hearing those words for the first time in my life, that's really what started laying the foundation for me to really feel like I belonged somewhere.
Let me just ask as a follow-up, has your sense of belonging changed through the years? Has it gone up and down, or
Yeah, so once it finally clicked with me that, I'm here for good, I'm not going anywhere, that sense of belonging, it amplified so much, and it continues to do so. And as time goes on and as life has gone on, the sense of belonging just keeps getting stronger and stronger every single time.
Thank you. Chris, how about you? Have you always felt like you belonged in your family? Have you gone through periods where you didn't feel that so much?
Yeah, so I entered into the Morris home at age 5, adopted at age 8. And I had some things that I needed to overcome from my past that I actually still realize that I'm still dealing with some abandonment issues and things like that. And so, yes, to answer your question, yes, from the moment I stepped through the door, I felt like I belonged. And that's where I was supposed to be. It's going to be my forever home, right? But on the flip side of that, and something that was shared earlier by Sonia was that we feel, at least for myself, like I'm unlovable and that unworthy of love too, right? So in the sense that, yes, in our family, I always felt like, yeah, I belong here and this is my family. Even to this day, I still struggle with moments of like, but I'm unlovable, so how do we overcome that or whatever, you know what I mean? So I still hit that roadblock where I'm like, do I actually, like, where do I belong in this world or even in God's family, right? But I know for a fact 2 things, that I am a child of God and also that John and Terry Moore are my parents, right? And so yes, overarching all of that, yes, I do feel like I definitely belong in the family. I am a Moore.
This might be too personal, so feel free to pass, but do you feel like getting married has kind of grounded you in that belongingness a little bit?
No, it's okay. I love personal questions. So
I love really invasive personal questions. Well, let me just say that marriage is an attachment relationship.
Yeah.
And so we bring ourselves into our marriages. I know you're still a newlywed, but I know that for me, being married helped me finally find secure attachment.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of healing that comes along with that, for sure. With getting married, I thought I had everything figured out, and I thought that I was always right before. I'm quickly learning a lot of things with marriage. And I know that in the future when we have kids and when we foster and adopt, that'll also change too. But our first year was awesome. We had a great time. But some things are coming to light now that I'm realizing, I mean, even last weekend, that I'm still dealing with, and I mentioned it kind of briefly earlier, but in my relationships, my whole life, I keep people at a distance, okay? And it's very hard for me to trust people. And I mean, maybe that's because of my background and the things that happened to me as a young kid and things like that I'm still dealing with right now. And so, even with my wife, like that's a difficult thing. And so we're navigating that together, which is fun and interesting. And there's going to be some further conversations together and maybe like some counseling. I don't know, but this was last weekend we were talking about this. So yes, in marriage, it's even more solidifying the fact that there is someone outside of my story and my family that has entered into in a relationship with me that loves me unconditionally too, and I feel it all the time. So yes,
Yeah,
I think that
it's a journey of attachment.
Yeah, it is.
It really is, yeah. Well, thank you. That was maybe a little personal, but thank you. I really appreciate you sharing that. Fred, how about you? Have you always felt like you belonged? Has it been a process?
Well,
Oh, sorry. You got it?
alright, well, growing up, like, I didn't have a family like parents. I grew up with my grandmother and one of my mom's sisters. So, like, I didn't know what it felt like to be loved by parents. Like, I didn't have, like, that parent love growing up. Like, I could only see my dad maybe once a year. You know, when I go see my dad, like, please buy me some books or something. And he wouldn't give me, like, those, like, even small things, like, which I needed the most. So, like, I didn't feel like, at some point I didn't feel like I even had a future, like, cause I mean, it's kind of going through it, cause I went through like a lot growing up, and my mom could like, she used to abuse me a lot too most of the times, just like coming to school and getting like a bad grade, getting like a 98 or like, I mean, even a 99 grade on the test. She would like just beat you up because you didn't get 100. You ask her like, what do you miss at 1 point? So like, what was I like dealing with? When at the age of 15, I got adopted, and that showed me like, that gave me like some parent love, like, it showed me like how it feels like to be loved by someone, and like it told me like there's someone around there in the world who cares about you, like no matter how, like, no matter how like, I'm gonna say it, but yeah, it was a tough life growing up for me. And like, when I got separated from my siblings, I didn't think I'll ever see them again. Because I was like 14, 15, and like after 3 years later, I got adopted by my parents right there. Because when they left like Uganda, I didn't even know like they coming to America. I didn't know about it. Until like 3 years later, like, because my parents like went to some high school, but my parents found out like my siblings were getting adopted and I was staying behind. They took me out of the village, so like I don't know about it. So I was like, this entire time they were in America and I was in Uganda, I didn't know like I ever see them again. But when I got adopted, just like, it was the best feeling ever, I can say. Seeing them again and me cry. Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask, so are you saying that when your family found out that you were going to be adopted, that they rejected you, your Ugandan family?
Well, when they found out, like, well, I mean, I found out my siblings were getting adopted because I saw my parents come to Africa to school, where I went to. And like my mom, like she asked, well, I kind of sneaked out to go meet them. Because like where I grew up, it was like something like Caucasian people like that. And like seeing someone who was like different skin, that was like a big deal pretty much. So I sneaked out from my dormitory and go meet them. That's what my siblings were. But I didn't know they were getting adopted though. So I spent the night with them where they're staying. It was kind of like a hotel, pretty much just call it. And like I spent the night there, we had food. I know they're gonna be my parents one day. So they were like, I was just like, you know, I told them those are my friends. They didn't know like those were my cousins. Like I was like their brother. They didn't know that. So like, I don't know. It was a long story.
No, it's good. Your story. Well, let me ask this. So after you came home to your family here,
Yes.
has it been sort of a process of building that sense of belonging? I mean, did you just drop right in the family and felt like, I'm here, I belong, or did it take a little bit of time?
It took a while getting used to like having a dad. Like I only met my real dad like 3 times in my life. Second time, last time I saw him was in the court. I didn't see him while I was like my mom. I was even afraid to hang out with her, like go see her, because she couldn't beat me up like when I was a child. So I didn't have like, I didn't want to go see her like most of the time. So like when I got adopted, like it took me a while when I came here, like get used to like having parents, because I was used to kind of doing it on my own. Because my grandma whom I grew up with, like she was old. Like So like, I mean, she did most of the things for me, but like, not like everything. Like I sometimes find my own food. Found my way to school, which like almost like 10 miles going to school. So I got to walk like to school in Africa. But when I got here, it's like everything changed pretty much. Like I'm not used like going to school and where the bus comes to your house and pick you up, like here in high school. So that was like I felt like that was like a big deal. Like, you go to school, they even give you food here. Like teachers give you books if you don't have books, they give you pencils if you don't have pencils. But in Africa, like if you don't have like a pencil, like take notes down, they can kick you out of class or like even suspend you. So like, it's like the best life coming in.
Thank you. All right, one thing parents, we talk about among adoptive parents is celebrating the day that our children were adopted, or maybe the day we brought that home. Some people will call it Gotcha Day, some people call it Family Day, Forever Day, and I'm learning, well, actually I know because of my own kids, not all kids feel really happy on that day. It's not necessarily a super happy day for everybody. So I had a couple of people ask about that, and I just thought it would be an interesting question to put to you. How do you feel about it? And did your family celebrate? What did you call it? And how do you feel about it?
Yeah, so like you said, it's not, a happy day for every child. But for me, it was it's really hard to describe how I felt. The amount of joy I had, we call it Trent Taylor Day.
Oh, there's a good one.
So the amount of joy I had knowing that people were here to celebrate me and my family. Because before, I never felt like I belonged anywhere. Never felt like I had a family. So for me, that experience was indescribably incredible, magical, and it continues to be every year, because there are so many who don't have that. So many kids who age out and have nothing. So every year our Team Taylor Day comes around, I just sit in reflection and I'm like, thank you, God. Thank you for allowing me to be one of the lucky ones. Thank you for letting me find my forever family. So it's really just a true moment of reflection and gratitude, and not a day goes by that I'm not thankful for it.
Thank you. I like that Team Taylor Day. That's great. Chris, how about you? How do you feel about that?
I mean, yeah, it's an amazing day. Like I said, I was 8 years old, so it's been a few years, but I do remember that day vividly. Out of any other day in my childhood, besides the day that I staked the claim of walking into my parents' house for the first time, right? And so that day, April 2nd, 2003 day, boom. We celebrate it every year, right? I mean, it's a little bit harder now that married and moved out of the house, but it's always a big deal. Growing up, it was, we were able to choose the restaurant that we were going to go celebrate at, and, just a few years after my brother and I were adopted, coincidentally enough, one of my sisters actually got adopted on the very same day, April 2nd, some year that I don't remember. I don't know, I can't see it. But yeah, so now it's all three of our celebration, which is really cool too. I don't know how that worked out. I don't know if he was like, I need to save some money. So I'm having all these, I'm just kidding. But it's cool because now it's all three of our celebration. Yeah, so we call it Adoption Day, right? Maybe we should start calling it Team More Day. That'd be cool. Yeah, but yeah, it's a great day. We'll definitely celebrate it every year.
Great. Fred, how about you? Does your family celebrate?
Oh yeah, we did celebrate like a lot. I remember that I made it to the news that day when I came here, when I got adopted. I guess like maybe because I was 15 when I got adopted, and like so many people don't get adopted at that age. So like, it was a big deal. I was saying, I didn't just celebrate my first birthday when I got here, because growing up in Uganda, like birthdays, we don't celebrate it. Like, I didn't even know like, I had a birthday until like 15 o'clock came here. Like, I didn't know what year I was born, what day. I didn't know my age until then, so having a family here when I got adopted, like, it showed me like a lot, like, who I am, pretty much. And like, I remember like when I first came here, see my little brother Nathan, like, I hadn't seen him like once like 3 years, so like being able to hug him again, like making wobblers was the best. It was like the best feeling ever. See my sister Agnes, Ruthie, everybody. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so from your perspective, I want to hear this. We do a lot of training of parents, and we talk amongst ourselves a whole lot, but I'd like to know from your perspective. You know, a lot of our kids have really big feelings because they've been through a lot of really big things. And you all have been through a lot. And I'm sure that you probably had some big feelings at some point. So the question is, you know, how would you encourage adoptive parents to respond when their child says something like, I hate this family, I wish I'd never been adopted, you're the worst parents in the world. You know, these kinds of things that kids will say when their hearts are hurting and they're dysregulated and things. So anyhow, I'm sure your parents all handled it perfectly. Theoretically, other parents, if their children say something to them that's really rejecting, really big feelings, how would you encourage parents to respond?
Empathize. Empathize with your child, because I know what it's like to have those feelings. I used to walk around saying that I hate my life and all this stuff, all these very negative things. But it was because I was hurting. I never meant any of it. It's not personal. It's not an attack on you. It's nothing that you're doing wrong. And a lot of times, it was my way to test, to see if they were going to be home number 6, you know, and we have learned to do things like that out of means of survival. We have so many feelings, we have no idea how to express them appropriately, so they come out in all kinds of ways, but we're just hurting. We just need you to come alongside us and walk this journey with us, you know, and to cry when we cry. I remember the first time, you know, I was just really upset when I was starting to disclose my sexual abuse to my mom. You know, she started crying with me, and I looked at her and I said, "Why are you crying? It didn't happen to you. Something wrong with your eyes?" You know? But she told me, she's like, "I hurt when you hurt. I cry when you cry." And that was some very, very powerful words. Because before I would cry, nobody would come. I would cry, I would be put in a swing and left alone for hours on end. And I learned very early on that my big emotions, they didn't matter. Nobody cared. No one was going to do anything about it. So then I tried to express them the best way I could, you know, and it was not always the most appropriate or the best way to show it, but that's all we know, you know. So you gotta just empathize with the child, with your child. You know, God has put these children in your home. He has given us parents to love us. And oftentimes we don't love ourselves. We don't know how to love. We don't know how to accept it. But just never stop. Never stop telling your child how much you love them, how much they are precious, how much they are appreciated, and how much you want them. Because it's over time, it's things like that it's really gonna eventually sink in. You know, and things can be going good. The child may start to attach, and then these big feelings that they don't know how to express come up, and then they might say, "Well, I never wanted to be adopted. You guys are terrible." They don't mean that. it's not personal to you. It's just when things get too real, things get too close, and they start to attach just a little too much, it's scary, it's hard, and they don't know how to handle this because they've never felt this way before, and they're afraid that they're gonna lose it. So just stick it with them and come alongside them. And together, help point your child to the ultimate healing that can be found in God.
Thank you. Chris, how about you?
Well, you nailed it on the head right there.
Okay, so we've heard the TBRI practitioner. Okay. Chris, you know, you have siblings, and there's you know, I'm sure that there were plenty of big feelings in your family.
Yeah, I mean, there were. And I had a lot of them. I think that I would love to echo one of the things that you said and help drive it home is, it's simply, the only thing I could think of this whole time, right, that you're talking is that you love them no matter what, okay? No matter what's going on, no matter what the situation is, no matter what comes out of their mouth or how they act out or how much they hurt you, that you love them no matter what, okay? And then just to keep on reiterating that, because my parents did that well, though I never listened to it, okay? So, and that was a big struggle of mine, is listening to, you know, their love and God's love, right? And never accepting it, okay? The other thing is, that I would say is, and I know all of you are doing this already, but make sure that you're being Jesus to these kids, okay? Be Jesus to these kids because they need that. And just like Jesus and the Lord is for us in our lives, we need to be just like that to these kids, right? That's really all I can say.
Fred, how about you? How do you think parents can help their kids when they have these big feelings?
Well, all I can say is like, tell your kids like you love them, like, or like I'm proud of you, like everything they do, like those little things mean a lot. Like I just remember like in high school one day, I had a track meet one day, but I didn't tell my mom and my dad I had a stress fracture. But my parents usually they came and tell me track meet that rain, and they always like cheering for me. Like one day during the race, I didn't think I could finish the race. I had like 2 laps to go after 2 laps. Like my dad was there, my mom was there. They said, go Freddy, go Freddy. Like those are things like cheering for somebody, that's like encourage them pretty much. Like help me push through a race without like a stress fracture. And I was able to finish almost like a mental fight still. Like my dad always told me, I'm proud of you. I'm gonna take a test on an exam. Even though I didn't do good, it's always I feel like I just want to give up. Cause like this stuff ain't easy, doing chemistry or physics. It's not easy. And my dad was like, I'm always proud of you, I'm proud of you. Like I was up all night since like almost like 3 in the afternoon yesterday, just studying all night. Just one exam. Yeah, I may not do good, but my dad's like, hey, I'm proud of you. Just keep going, anything you need, I'm here. So just tell your kids like, I'm proud of you. Those little things mean a lot. Cause some of them like, they never had like that kind of love in their life before. Or like somebody who like means a lot, like they do. Like my parents mean it like almost entire world to me. Like I never had parents like that whom I could trust. So I'm happy to have a family again.
Thank you. All right, how did your parents help you heal and process your losses, your traumas? What did they do that was helpful? Were you open to professional help? Were you open to them? Okay, this is a personal question. What would you do if your teenage son does not want to go to their therapist? But I guess, I mean, it's more than that. Like, were you open to that kind of help? And what did your parents do that was helpful?
They did a lot of things that were very helpful. At the time, therapy was so overdone. No one understood me. I felt like I wasn't able to trust at the time enough to open up. And when I got to my adoptive parents' house, it was maybe close to a year before I just opened up the floodgates on my past trauma. I don't know what it was, but like I felt in my heart God telling me, these are your parents, you can trust now. You know, and every day they would always just reassure me that you can tell us anything and we're never going to judge you. We're never going to love you any less. This was not your fault. And we want to help. And so they came alongside me and they walked that healing journey by my side. They helped me every time I cried. They empathized with me. And they just let me know that they were there every step of the way. You know, and just knowing that, that's what really started to help me heal. And every single time, we would always find a way to thank God. And she always found a way to always turn me back to God. You know, luckily, you know, all throughout foster care, I never lost my faith. And actually, for me, it grew stronger and stronger as I went along, because that was the only consistent thing in my life. And the ultimate healing can only be found in God. You know, and you know, God makes us new. We are new, and we are made in His image, and we are perfect. Now, what happens in this world is not. But there's nothing that can ever happen to any of us that qualifies us as too far gone. And that's what my parents did for me. They helped me see that. They helped me realize that God thinks that, and that they think that. So my mom went out and she read every book on overcoming sexual abuse and trauma that she could get her hands on. And because she was the only person I could trust, I talked to her mostly. And then we finally found a really amazing psychologist. I'm blanking on her name. I think it was Dr. Highland, actually. And she was real. She was honest. She didn't try to sugarcoat anything, you know. And that was amazing for the first time to see a therapist do that, because that's what my mom was doing for me. You know, she let me feel whatever emotions I felt. She let me mourn the loss of my childhood and the loss of my siblings. She didn't say, you know, okay, it's time to be done, you know, let's move on, you know, you're good. She let me take as long as I possibly needed. She would sit with me for hours. And I knew she had stuff to do, but she never left my side. And I never once felt that she, you know, was distracted. She was 100% in the moment with me. Nothing else mattered. And that's like all those little things really is what helped me heal. And all those little things slowly pushing me, helping me realize that God is what's getting me through. God is the driving force behind everything.
I think that's an impressive statement, that your mom's ability and determination to be with you. Because it's not easy. You know, it's hard, well, I mean, it's hard for me sometimes to just stay present with my kids, because my mind is going to the next thing and the next thing and the next kid and the next kid. So I appreciate you telling me that. I need to be reminded too. So Chris, how about you? How did your parents help you heal and process?
I think it's in a very similar way. Being consistent, staying consistent in the way that they parented and the way that they showed love to me. Though for many years I tested that, right there. For many years I tested that, right? Because I wanted to see to what extent their love reached, right? And because of how, like I said earlier, I definitely felt that I was, for most of my life, unlovable, right? But they stayed consistent, day in and day out, and proving it in little ways, in big ways. And in regards to healing, I mean, you know, I did all the things, the counseling, the therapist, the name this, name that, whatever it was. And I just didn't take any of it seriously growing up, which I regret now. but that's okay. So it took a long time for me in my story for me to find any sort of healing, because I'm unlike you, Trent. I actually, I grew up in the church, didn't really, okay, this is a safe place, right? I didn't really care when I was growing up, and I wore a mask my whole life, right? So I was one way at church, and I was another way at home, and I was another way at school, and I was another way when I was with friends, things like that. In any situation, I was changing. And so I didn't actually have a real relationship with God. And so leaving high school, entering college, were some of the most trying times in my life, right? Because I'm like, oh, freedom. And then I started walking down that road towards self-destruction and self-sabotage, and you can probably guess some of the things I was getting into. But it all led to one day, several years ago, being in the hospital. Okay, and so I'm in the hospital, right, and I am not aware of my surroundings and things like that. And so I knew one thing, though, and I knew that I wanted my dad. So in my state of whatever I was in at the time, I called my dad. I'm not sure what I said or whatever, but I woke up in the hospital in Williamsburg, Virginia, and there he was, by my side. Okay? And that is a little story, and that's a whole nother day of talking about things like that, what led to that moment. But that is a moment of any other moment that still sticks with me and proves, right, the level of love and commitment that he has. And then that put me on a trajectory towards healing. Okay? So it was literally that moment that I needed that set me on the path back towards God, towards some healing, towards realizing that, that no matter how far and how hard I push people away, my parents will always be there. So I hope that answers your question.
It's a very powerful illustration. Really meaningful. I'm not going to look at your dad because I feel tearful. Fred, how about you? How have your parents helped you deal with all the things you've been through in your life?
Well, like I said, like, my parents have always been there for me, like, no matter what. Like, for example, like, one day, when I first came back from the military boot camp, like, I went through a lot being there, especially being my first winter here. Like, I wasn't used, like, to the cold weather here. And then when I was in South Carolina, like, they didn't care what temperature was outside. Like, they can make you, like, put on shorts and t-shirt, like, when it's like 30 degrees outside, make you go around, like, that kind of, like, happened because I wasn't used to it. I remember having, like, one of my friends was also from Africa. Like, one day he made us, like, sun formation, like, where you move at all. So his hands, like, became, like, blue. Like, he started crying, like, cause he wasn't used to it too. It was tough, like, that kind of, like, made me, like, be, like, self-hate, like, inside me. So when I came back here, I tried to go back to school, like, I didn't want to hit my friends and stuff like that. Like, I started pushing everybody away. But always, like, my mom knew, like, I don't know how she could tell, like, something's wrong with me. Even I trying to, like, tell her, like, what's wrong. Like, she always knew, so, like, she put me like, in some counseling, like, which helped me a lot. When I was at Campbell, back at Campbell, I started going to church more, which I didn't back then because I was trying, like, I blamed, like, everything on myself pretty much. And that, like, pushed me away from everybody. But my mom, like, she's always there for me, like I said. And that, like, put me through counseling and helped me a lot because at some point I felt about, like, give up, like everything pretty much. After what I've been through. So all I can say is, like my dad, for example, he always, I go to ECU and he always come and drive like 2 hours, come see me, just go get lunch or dinner or get food. When I was at Campbell, he drove like almost 1 hour and a half, just come see me get lunch. So that meant a lot. Because you can come in people like, to drive down there. They can say, I don't drive. Even my friends like say, I don't drive, I can come see you, come to me. My parents like, they always come like South Carolina, they came to see me down there. They drove from Durham, South Carolina, just come see me for just one day. My graduation, they came to Virginia to see me when I was in Virginia for Lee as well. So that was there for me when I need them the most. I can always count on them.
So when I think of all your answers, what I'm hearing is parents who were present, who showed up. It wasn't magical, therapeutic technique. It was parents who were there when you needed them, who were faithful to you, and who pointed you to Jesus. So I think we can all manage. Well, it's not going to be easy, but we can do that. We can be consistent and faithful, even in the hard. So thank you for that, all of you. Okay, so I've had some parents ask me, and you're all a little public, so this is with your story, so this is a little different, but I still would like to hear your perspective, and you have siblings too, but how do you feel about how your parents have shared your story, and how have you kind of processed that as a family, the privacy versus the public parts?
So, for me, I started sharing my story before they did. They came to me and they were like, do you want to? Because at that time we had a support nonprofit, and I was interested in sharing my story and helping others. So they let me do that, and then as time went on, my story got more and more detailed. Like the types of abuse I've been through. And at first, they were the ones that were reluctant to let me share about my sexual abuse. I think they worried about how people would react more than I was. Because at that point, I had come to a place where that wasn't me. That's not on me. That's what was done to me. And I had no more shame, no more guilt. And for me, being able to share my story was like the final chapter in my healing journey. A healing journey that never truly ends, but it was a huge milestone for me to be able to share my story, and it empowered me. It, allowed me to take something so painful and tragic and turn it into something so beautiful. And and not for me, but for the glory of God. I finally found purpose in my pain. I knew that I went through this for a reason, so that I can help others. I can help bring others to Christ and show them that they are not alone. And in the darkest moments, God is with you. Always.
Thank you. How about you, Chris? You have a pretty public family.
I think that this is just kind of our identity, right? Dad speaks around the country, and I join him when the opportunity arises. And so for us, it's pretty cool that we get to do that. And I think that I can't speak to all of my siblings because I honestly don't know. But I think that is kind of like the identity, like I said, of our family. And I don't think anyone really opposes it, or it's just who we are. I'm definitely more open, I guess, if you and willing to be up on stages like this and share with you all. Some of my siblings are more shy, hesitant, or maybe still living out some of their story, right? I have younger sisters who are still in elementary and high school, right? And so maybe someday they will too. But this is who we are. This is where God's called us to be. how God wants to use our family. So I think we're pretty much all on the same page with that.
How about you, Fred? How do you feel about?
Well, I feel like I'm just like blessed. I've got a family, and my family don't like being public about my adoption. I feel like it opens me up like inside me, and like I feel like it's gonna help like reach out like to more people who wanna adopt like older kids like me, 15 years old, and like also like sorry.
Okay.
Like I want to just encourage like kids like my age like who got through a lot, like don't even give up. Like you may be like 20 one day, 15, like you always have a family, like there's always somebody who cares about you. So my family like being open about like our family, it makes me feel lucky. Cause I have like friends who like say, I tell them like I'm adopted, I have like 8 siblings, they're like, oh my God, like I have a friend who like she's the only child, and like sometimes she like I wish I had a family like yours, cause she has my sister most of the time, and like she feels like it's always good to have like many siblings, cause get to hang out like a lot of people, get to know people, and like have connections. So
Thank you. I think we're at our time. Okay, I did have more wonderful questions, but I just want to thank all of you so much. This is wonderful.